Well, good morning. So, remember in chapter 1, we talked about romantic love as a trick. And then chapter 2 tells us incompatibility is grounds for marriage. So, inevitably, there's going to be conflict in any intimate relationship. And Harville, who is writing this chapter, introduces the chapter with this. Hopefully by now you realize that the conflict you're experiencing is not only normal, but inevitable and even valuable. Try not to avoid it. Don't try to deny it. Don't run away from it or wish it away. Stay with it and you'll discover something wonderful right around the corner. While conflict makes you uncomfortable, it can also invite you to reflect on your situation from a new perspective. So you have a choice. You can act in ways that keep the conflict going, or you can turn the conflict into creative tension, which gives birth to new insights and talents. The trick is to use conflict to jumpstart growth. Now, often the tendency in North America, at least, it seems to me, is that to think that if you're having problems in your relationship, it means you're with the wrong person. But Harville had stated much earlier in the first edition of Getting the Love You Want, a guide for couples, 1988, he had said, people often get rid of their partner but keep the problem and take that problem into the next relationship. And that was a comment that really made sense to Crystal and I when we were struggling with our relationship and helped us to stay in the relationship long enough to examine it more consciously. So here's one way the conflict showed up for us. And obviously it'd be different for you, but this is what happened for us. Remember, I grew up in a military boarding school, so I had not developed my feeling function very well. As an adult, I tended to shy away from sharing or showing much feelings and lived in my head. I still do. The rational, intellectual part of me that functioned better. Crystal, on her side, had a brilliant mind. Much better than mine. But she had grown up on a farm where her thinking function wasn't encouraged. So back then, those first 15 years, when issues arose, I tended to retreat to the more intellectual, cerebral side. She tended to stay on the more emotional side, and issues would turn into a stalemate. So, as Harville says, the trick is to use any conflict to stretch into new behaviors on both sides. Now here's the problem. Often what we need most from our partner is what they're at least capable of giving, which means that we're the least capable of giving them what they need most from us. So what happened for us, as I stretched to meet Crystal's very legitimate feeling needs, I not only met her needs, but I started to heal a part of me that had been stunted growing up. And on her side, she began trusting her feeling or her thinking function more, which helped me and began healing a part of her that had not been encouraged growing up as a child. So Harville concludes this chapter with, many people feel that romantic love fades far too fast. And for some, the conflict of the power struggle lasts way too long. Remember, though, there is a purpose to the struggle. And by the way, I don't want you to stay in that power struggle too long. It's a stage. It's supposed to happen, it's supposed to end, but it's supposed to end, just like romantic love. So he says, remember, though, there's a purpose to the struggle. To move through it, you have to recognize the real message behind the conflict. It's time for both of you and your partner to stretch so you can reclaim new parts of yourself. Using the conflict as a catalyst enables you to truly become the partner each one of you needs and also develop fully into who you really are. So again, this chapter is about conflict as growth trying to happen. So don't be surprised, but if we can actually, it's a reframe to see it as a chance for growth. Okay, so then next week we'll look at chapter 4 where Helen shares being present for each other heals the past. Have a great week. See you next week.